All right. Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of Agents Influence Podcast, conversations with me, Jason Cass, and today I have Nick Aube. It's Aube, but he told me that it was French, and so I decided to do that. You know what? Like, when I think about it, I had Ruben Hassid on, and he was French, and there was another French gentleman that I had on recently. I don't know. God, I hope the French aren't taking over America. They helped us battle Britain. So anyways, hey, Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Jason, I appreciate you having me on. I don't know if they're taking over America. They might be taking over the insurance industry, though.
Yeah, that could possibly be. Yes. Anyways, I was going to say some other things, but it's too early to say those. So anyways, Nick, let me tell the loyal listeners. So Nick and I have recently got to know each other. I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. Hell, time goes by so fast. Invited him to Brain Share. People absolutely loved him. We started the summer of sales going on inside the mastermind. Nick kind of opened it up. I think it was the third or the fourth Thursday of May, I believe that's when it was. Did a fantastic job there, and I said, let's get you out there, because I told him, I said, when I got to know him, and if you guys have never been to Brain Share, you need to come, but it's more of a personal relationship. For 2.5 days, you're learning with these people, you're having drinks and dinner with these people, you're partying with these people, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing with these people after 12 o'clock, but we don't tell our spouses, oh, wait, shit, they're listening to this. No, I'm joking, but not really. That was the younger me. Now I go to bed at like 10 or 11, even on party nights. So anyways, and so here you are. And so Nick, I want you to give us a little bit about you and kind of speed us up. Start where you were born and bring us to where you are in 2-3 minutes.
All the way back to where I was born?
Mm-hmm. Where were you born?
I was born in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Manchester, New Hampshire. That's where I grew up. I grew up in New Hampshire. And basically, went to high school there, college, the whole deal. Lived in Boston after, got into the insurance industry. And essentially, I was in the insurance industry right after college. The dude I worked for, he's like, hey, you can take the summer off. You just graduated Saturday. You don't have to start Monday. I'm like, well, will you pay me for the summer if I take it off? He's like, no, dude, I'm not going to pay you. I'm like, well, then I'm starting Monday. I got no damn money. And so I started right after college in the insurance industry. And I got to a point where I was probably like 6 years in the business as a commercial producer. And I had built this BOR system, and it's working. I was actually having success. I built a different way to produce. Not the traditional quoting model. I had a little bit of pride in what I was doing, because now, there's that thought like, oh, you're an insurance agent. You're just a step above a used car salesman. Not me. I was doing it different. I was different than every other agent. And so because I was acting different, I created this level of confidence for myself that now I could walk into a prospect meeting and provide value whether they worked with me or not.
Mm-hmm.
There was no longer that. There's, the desperation that we've all had at some point in our career of like, they're doing me a favor. It's my buddy's father-in-law is giving me a meeting so I can talk to him about insurance. That was gone because I was going to bring value into that meeting. And at the same time, I'm more relaxed. I've got created a consistent pipeline, created more efficiencies in what I was doing. It was allowed myself to create more opportunities, and ultimately allowed me freedom, flexibility. And I got to a point where I could kind of see the path for my career as a producer. I had a 50-40 split, expense account, country club membership, equity in my book. Like, I had the whole deal, and I just didn't fulfill me producing. What really fulfilled me was the system, sharing the system, scaling the system, and that's where I pushed for that. So I pushed and really made the decision. That's what I wanted to focus on, was how do I scale this system, and push for partner. That didn't quite work out. And then I spent the next several years trying to figure out different ways to scale this process. And essentially, I landed on coaching insurance producers and really helping them institute a BOR system for themselves. And that's how I ended up where I'm at today, is helping producers to actually execute that so they can go out and create that different environment, show up different as producers.
When you learn something like that and you just have that certain mentality, you can't help but wanting to just help other people. You know what I mean? I'm totally with you on your mindset there. I really, really do like that. And Nick, so you've got me thinking a lot, right? I'm a disciple of David Carruthers, right?
Yep.
And then I became a disciple of Charles Speck as well, because some of the stuff that David maybe didn't jive with me or maybe left gaps, Charles was able to fill that, right?
Yep.
And so now I really focus on you because I love these BOR guys. Michael Salas
Yeah, yeah.
is another one, right? He's on LinkedIn. He doesn't officially have a business like yourself or whatever. He still
Sure.
sells, but he shares his ideas. And I love tuning into it because there's so much I can learn from that, right? And so one of the things that really you take it to kind of a different thing is I'm not doing the quoting process, right? And that's the point of the BOR. But anybody who gets BORs or does a lot of them or has done them in the past knows that when you ask for it, if they say no to the BOR, we always go to quoting, right?
Right.
And you are no. You're either going to understand. So to take them forward, there's one call, set up the meeting, you meet with them. You're either leaving there with the BOR or them assuming you're doing business or not. Am I right about that? Tell me where I'm wrong.
So no, you're right. That presentation meeting, depending on the prospect and the exact situation, I may spread that over 2 meetings and do a more deep dive, more analysis on the coverage, experience model, whatever. But really, it's showing up to that meeting, walking them through, really educating them on the process. And when I say the process, the insurance system, the insurance game, and teaching them.
I love that. That's so important, loyal listeners, what he's saying here. Educating on the insurance game. Keep going, Nick.
Yeah, because they've never heard it, right? I say every, lumping everybody in together, but for the most part, insurance agents, they go out, they meet with the prospect, they have that feeling of like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Can I please quote your insurance? And they don't teach them anything new. And so by teaching them something new, we're able to educate them on, look, it's not even a BOR pitch, really. It's an education on the strategy. If I were you, if I was a business owner, this is how I would set up my insurance program to navigate the insurance market so that you can get the most out of it.
Love that, Nick.
And so when you do that, the BOR conversation becomes easy because after you educate them that they should have one agent who they trust, who can address coverage, address risk management, manage their experience mod, negotiate reserves at unit stat, all the things that we know we need to do as insurance professionals, and set up the market, navigate the market. You should have one person to do that. How do you then turn around and ask them to quote? You can't. You just educate them the best way to do it. And so that conversation becomes very simple. Now it's like, if you want somebody to do that, here's how I can help and benefit you and basically run that strategy for you.
So here's the deal, okay? So now knowing that, loyal listeners, something Nick doesn't know is, so since about 2 weeks ago, I really been giving it a thought since you were on the mastermind, which I invite anybody to go to agencyintelligencemastermind.com. Agency Intelligence Mastermind. Real tough to remember that, Jason. Agency Intelligence Mastermind. I have I think 11 websites, so it's tough sometimes. If you go there, you can check this out. But anyways, whenever you started with this, it really kind of got me thinking and say, sometimes that's not just realistic. It's just not, Nick. We have people who still need our services. They're loyal to their agent. They at least want this or that. And there are possibly other options. And I'm not saying no against you. I'm just thinking in my head for the last 2 weeks. And then I started thinking, and I went into my agency Zoom and I started looking, and my producers are up around, 400 some thousand, 500,000 almost. Not even halfway through the year. So I'm thinking, okay, they've got to be pretty far onto their goals. Travis is in charge of dealing with that. Yeah. But I started looking and I started realizing that between them, they had around, not between them, but each of them had anywhere between 6 to, I think, as high as 9 or 10 policies, clients, not policies, clients, that they had become new business. And I started thinking to myself, okay, if we have 5 months, right? And let's just take the person who has, let's say they had 10, because keep it easy. That's 2 a month, right? And I started thinking to myself, but one of the things that you hit on, and everybody does, but I think you hit on it more, is efficiency. I think that's one thing we can't take out of our brain, right? That Yeah, but I'd have to call more people. Yeah, but that's all you're doing because they're either going with you or they're not, right? If you had to call more people and still quote, I could see why that is, right? But it's getting over that mindset of the efficiency that you're getting. And I started thinking to myself, if my guy who sold 10, if he did nothing but just did this in your strategy from January 1st, I guarantee you he would have at least gotten 10.
Oh, without a doubt.
And he wouldn't have done the quoting, right? And so it's like, it's hard to change that mindset, but numbers don't lie. And so that's what I've kind of figured out for the last 2 weeks. Nick, hit on that. What do you think?
Well, I'm glad I gave you something to think about. And you're spot on. It creates efficiency in two different ways, though. So the producer has efficiency, right? Because now you're essentially stopping the process earlier. You're getting to a yes or no much faster than waiting the 90 days. So there's time that you can now reallocate, like you said, to prospecting. Mm-hmm. So you're operating in a more efficient way because you're getting in front of the right people. Because even of those 10, do you want to win all those 10? Are they a fit for you? Are they going to buy into what you're doing? Or are you going to retain them? And then the other piece of the efficiency side is internally. How many did your internal staff have to quote to hit those 10? And so let's say they're closing at 50%. So now you're quoting 20 to win 10. And yeah, we've got technology and everyone, you're the indie tech guy. Everyone wants to get more efficient with the technology and there's ways to quote faster. But now you have who's ever doing the quoting. Some producers are doing it. Some internal staff are doing it. And you're taking up time now to quote 20 to win 10. Whereas if you BOR 10, you're only quoting 10 in that whole process.
Dude, and another thing, here's get funny, get comical, but being very real. I've said for a long time that relationships are relationships, right, Nick?
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that the relationship that you have with your clients, the relationship that you have with your friends is no different. The relationship that you even have with your spouse. Obviously, the intimacy, romantic part, minus that, but the overall is the same, right? Excuse me. I didn't bring water in here. But overall, it's the same. So it gets you thinking here that if I walked up to a bunch of women, one at a time, and I said to them, hey, I would like to date you and go out on a date. Let's start right now. They would say no. But I would be like, I'm not going to spend my time trying to convince this person. I'm going to go to the next person, right? Now, some people would say, but that's terrible. You're going to get the person who's desperate or not. But here's one thing you lay out there, and I think all you loyal listeners should pay attention. It's about the room that the girls are in. Because if you're just in a random room and you're just going to go everywhere, that's what you may get. But if you go into a room where women who like to boat, right? Let's say that's one of your hobbies. Yep. People who like the outdoors, someone who wants to have a big family, and those are your things. And then you go ask that in the room. When you get that one, you're obviously going to have more success with that. And you didn't spend as much time nor as much money courting the thing, I mean, you could, I don't know. It's a relationship is a relationship is a relationship. Where am I crazy, Nick?
No, I think you're spot on because, and if you think about the dating part, it's the same as the quote. It might take you 90 days to figure out they're not a fit. And now you got to restart. So it's like, shit. Do I really want to wait 90 days to find out if I want to date this person? Now, the question I would ask, okay, great. We're going into the room. We know what room we're going into. What is the we'll call them prospects, right? But the potential girlfriend. What's the situation? Do they have a boyfriend? Are they, or are they single? Because now I'm going to change the messaging, right? So if they have a boyfriend, I'm going to come in and I'm going to educate them why their boyfriend or boyfriends in general aren't, what's the word I'm looking for? They aren't managing the relationship correctly. And I'm going to educate them why, hey, look, here, what we find is most boyfriends are doing X, Y, and Z. And really where that hurts you is because it delays your ability, whatever their goal is, get married, have children. And so by doing that, this guy's actually wasting your time. And so if I dated you, here's how I would structure, yada, yada, whatever. And then you dive into it. And so now the conversation is easier because you're educating them on a problem that they have. You're showing them how you could solve it. Hey, if you date me, here's what you get. They might not date you, but now they've gotten value from that conversation because she can go find the person she actually wants to date to solve that problem. I don't know if that makes sense or if that's just crazy.
It makes total sense, and we all deal with it when we're dating because we have girls who leave us, and girls, if you're a loyal listener listening, guys, right? We have them and they leave us and they break our heart and they end up with this other person, and we don't realize that what you just said is actually what is happening, right? They found somebody else who gave them a better story and gave them a better life to fill their problems, or not their problems, what their hopes and expectations are. Good point. See, a relationship is a relationship is a relationship. So sometimes we don't know how to manage it when all in reality, we're doing it every day in all the relationships that we have. So sometimes it takes us, when we lack experience in something, it helps to build it on a metaphor or some other analogy that makes sense. And that's why I love doing that stuff. So Nick, how are you finding people? Like, I mean, you've got this, what is the name of your business?
Producer Systems.
Producer Systems. And you have a system that takes somebody from the beginning to the end of here's how you set this up, create this, here's what you do, and here's the success you're going to have.
Yeah, 100%. We walk them through the whole process. And essentially, I've got an idea of how this all works and how I would, my perfect vision for the BOR and how it looks. But obviously, every agency is slightly different. Every producer is slightly different. So there's some level of customization that goes into it. And really what I think this, back to any example, really, if you don't have the vision for yourself of how you want to operate, that's where people get into trouble. Because if somebody says, oh, they're talking about BOR, I don't BOR. Now is there a frustration? Do they think BOR is better? Should they be BORing? Let's say I work out 5 days a week. You work out 7. Do I have this gap now? Well, should I be working out 7 days a week? Unless I define what my process is, how I want to operate.
Good stuff.
Then I'm going to lose confidence in the process. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what we're able to help these producers and agencies do is define what is your process? How do you want to run with the BOR? Because it's a tool that everybody should understand and define for themselves how they want to use it. And when I was producing, when I first started studying the BOR, I was getting bullied. I was getting pushed around by prospects because I didn't have a strong stance of my vision of how I wanted to operate. And so what you mentioned earlier, prospects are going, I'll pitch the BOR and they're like, hey, dude, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, well, shit. Okay, I'll quote it. Come on. What is it going to take? Just give me the information. And I never won those deals because now they don't trust you because you just told them one thing and you did another. And so once I defined my process, I could confidently stand in front of a prospect and say, you want to work with me, here's how it works. You have to BOR it. Unless I don't have the carrier, here's what I do. And I run this play. And so I think any agent or any producer agency, that's what you have to define. How are you going to operate in your sales process? And that's going to create the confidence behind it.
It really is. It really, truly is. And I was just telling some of my guys today that sometimes the confidence happens in the outcome, right? So you've helped a client before. You've saw them push back, you break through, and you help them, right? And I think that that's what builds that confidence, and that's the way that we should look at it. Because in the book Fanatical Prospecting, that's what everybody's are reading in our agency, and we just had a meeting on just trying to go through things that we had learned there. Yeah, and that was one of the things, very, very phenomenal book. I always think on prospecting real quick that you can be the best prospector in the world and the worst salesperson and you'll still make money. But I would agree with that. You could be the worst prospector in the world and the greatest salesperson in the world, and that's like building a hotel on a desert island, right? Like you've got to find people, And I think what you're saying here is defining that of who that is, and then the process to get them gives you that confidence that you're looking for. you know?
Yeah, and I think on the prospecting piece, prospecting is like the fastest way to either build or destroy confidence. If
Good
you
call.
say, I'm going to make 300 calls this week, I suck at math, but what's that, 50? 50 a day? No, that'd be 250. 50 a day, right? I'm going to make
60 a
60,
day.
yeah. So I'm going to make 60 calls a day. And Monday, you don't do it. Tuesday, you don't do it. Yeah, I'll do it at the end of the week. Now you get to the end of the week, you haven't done it. That will destroy your confidence incredibly fast because now you're not keeping your commitment. You're not sticking to what you said you do. On the flip side, if you can go out and prospect consistently and you hit those calls every week, the 60 a day, now you're starting to build momentum. And you know that next week I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to constantly be creating opportunities because I'm actually doing the action and the effort or putting in the effort that it takes to create opportunities to be able to write new business. So prospecting is such an easy way to I think, create confidence, but also it's the best way to get new business. You want to write more new business, spend more time prospecting.
Very true. Very true. And I mean, very true. It's carried me. I may not be the best salesperson, but yeah, I can, the prospecting is where it's at. Nick, how many phone calls do you usually, I know every agency is different and market's different, but how many calls a day do you see people doing out there? And let me ask you this, first of all, what's the number one way would you say that prospecting is best to build your book?
So I'm completely biased towards cold calling, which I know is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually really enjoyed it. And that's how I built my book on it. The reason I liked it so much, it was efficient compared to like a drive-by. I hated doing drive-bys because in an hour I could drive by 3 people or I could call. Yeah, right.
So
brutal.
with you, dude.
Yeah. No,
We
I'm
think
not
a
saying
lot
that.
alike.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work. And I'm not saying the drive-by doesn't have a, whatever. There's a time and a place for everything, right? And same with cold email, even cold outreach on LinkedIn. You're not catching a person, in the moment. And that's why I like cold calling is if you play the numbers correctly and you track your own numbers, chances are you're going to get somebody on the phone and you got the opportunity to set the meeting right there. And so over the years, when I first started, I had nothing to do. I was a green producer. I would make like 100 calls a day because all I had to do. And so I adjusted it as I went. And the amount of calls obviously depended on the numbers of what I was trying to hit and then trying to tweak it and track that information and really watch the closing percentage is really what you're after. And so if you need more meetings, maybe you need to ramp up the calls or maybe you need to tweak what you're saying. And the other big thing on the cold calling or any prospecting in general, I would target during the X date, prospect on X date. So if you don't have data, there's a lot of data out there and a lot of agencies are already using it. But if you don't have that, I would get that data. So now if you're making a cold call, you're sending a cold email, you know that prospect is renewing within the next 30 to 90 days, maybe 120. Your chances just go up because now they're at least thinking about it. So now if you're making a cold call and you don't have X dates, which I did in California for a year, the data wasn't ready 12 years ago out there. And I'd get somebody on the phone. I'm like, great, let's talk next week. They're like, I renew in 9 months. Call me then. And so the chances of setting those meetings goes down drastically.
It does. One of the things we do teach is about 4 to 6 months out before renewal, you get the mod sheet. I think a lot of people don't realize that you can get that off NCCI. But the most important thing is people right now are like, oh, Jason, everybody knows that. And a lot of people do. But one thing people don't realize is right before you go to buy it and you see the client and they say, yeah, this is the one that you're going to buy. And here's the options. And the top right above it, there's a thing that says notify me with changes. And when you click that, it's going to ask for your email. And anytime anything changes on that reporting for that client, boom, it's going to email it right to you, loyal listeners. And when it sends it right to you, the nice thing about that is whenever they send out the new mod sheet, they're going to send you an email and say, hey, so-and-so's mod sheet's ready. You grab that, you call the prospect and you say, hey, wanted to let you know this came out today. Has your current agent called you and discussed this? It's also another good way then to set that meeting to where you're going to try to go. Another good trick, and David taught this, Nick, which we've only done this one time.
Okay.
And it's our largest client. And we got it. It's they renew on September 1st, and it was a large, like the workers' comp alone is 625K. And so we're sitting there, and I did a David move, and the David move is that even though it's a couple of weeks after renewal, you call them, because if they shopped it out, they've got valued loss runs, right? So if they shopped it, they've got the loss runs. Well, you can get those loss runs, and you can build your mod sheet and stuff off of them, so then you can attack and say, hey, here's what I found off your loss runs. Has your other agent told you this? And then you can start to kind of go through and then hit them with the new mod, and then ask for the BOR before. And also, one of the things I think we don't really lay out here, which I think is important, is trying to lay out to them your timeline of services, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, are we going to be in there? How we are different? Are we just going to be accused of being the agent who just comes to just accept the check? Right. That's the only time that's the only time we hear from you. You know?
Well, I think too that. Oh, good.
Go ahead. Well, there's things like Yellowbird that I wanted to end with. Like Yellowbird is somebody that we use to get our safety stuff. So we're always doing loss controls, always helping them build safety committees. And we don't do any of that. One of our theories is, and I want to hear what you have to say, but one of our theories is we, for a long time, agents have tried to white label everything, and they're still trying to do it, Nick. Still trying to do it. Mm-hmm. And we have in-house billing if you deal with us, We have in-house loss control if you deal with us. We do this and that, and all we do is drop the ball, because none of us are any of that other than an insurance agency, right? Mm-hmm. And so what our theory is let's take the work off of us. Let's tell them that our job is to, knowing insurance and knowing your risk, is to pull the experts in. We tell them that this is a third-party Yellowbird that we use. Yep. We tell them that this is third-party injuries that we use for our workers' comp. We tell them that, because our thing is by being with us, we're the good connectors, right? Mm-hmm. To fix that problem that you have. And I think that laying that out with the timeline of services allows them to be like, we love it. And it's what you said a minute ago, Nick. We love it when they say, and you see them thinking to themselves, like, how come no one's ever told me this before? Yeah.
That's like, if you can get the prospect or the client saying that is like, you've built trust, because now nobody else has taught them that. So you've taught them about a problem they didn't even know they had. And then you're the one that solves it. So it's like instant credibility and loyalty, really. And taking that stuff a step further, Yellowbird, you said it was? And some of these other
Yellowbird, yep.
Service a timeline. To me, it's about taking that and then showing the prospect of the client, because we've done this, right? Because we've partnered with Yellowbird, because we can get you loss control services and risk management and all that stuff is incredibly important. Here's how we can actually use that now to go negotiate your insurance premiums every year. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, the client doesn't necessarily care about loss control. Like they do, but they don't. Like if they're hanging out playing golf with their buddies, they're not saying, I really wish my insurance agent would get me some loss control. It's not a problem that's on their mind. The problem that's on their mind is, I think I'm paying too much. We've all had the call. I was playing golf with my buddy and he says he's paying this and he's got the same size business. Okay, probably not. There's probably a lot of other factors that go into that, but that's what they're focused. That's the problem that these prospects are trying to solve, is their premium. Now we know the other stuff's important, the experience mod, risk management, loss control, all this stuff. So we can still deliver that. We still need to deliver that. It's responsibility to, but by packaging it in a way that the client can understand as solving their premium problem, we can actually start to create more trust and really go into any prospect situation and create immediate value, because now we're not hoping, I hope their experience mod's high. And if their experience mod's low, I don't have anything to sell on. If their coverage, when I started out, the coverage analysis was a huge part of my BOR process. And so I got going on these prospects where if they had a coverage gap, I was going to win on BOR, because I'm going to show them, hey, look, this stuff's a mess. Now, if they had an experience mod that was high, even better, kind of 2 for 1. But any client that either had a good mod or had good coverage, I wasn't winning, because that was the whole pitch. Well, say,
Gotcha.
hey, I'm going to help you with your experience model. I'm going to help you with your coverage. But now taking in loss control, taking in, all these other things, the service timeline. Okay, that means something to a client. But if we phrase it as we're going to help you, we have a premium management system throughout the year. And the reason we check in on audit is because we want to manage your premium now. Last year, we want to forecast to next year. So you start to put it in terms that they can understand. And now you can create that, really create a space where you can actually solve a solution for that prospect outside of being dependent on, is the mod high, is the coverage, shitty for lack of
Nick,
better
I know
words.
you talk about this with people daily, weekly, and monthly. How can people get into I think your mastermind you talked about, where they sit around? Jake in my office is actually part of it, just FYI, loyal listeners. And so, ironically enough, he's my leading producer. FYI, I mean, it's not ironic. So anyways, and Nick, where could they find that?
Yeah, so if they go to producer.systems is the website. And then there's a link. It's called Producer Systems Live. It's every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern. There's no cost to join. And we've got producers coming in. And really what we're doing is having these conversations. All right, hey, I've got a prospect. Here's what happened. Presented the BOR, had experience. Their mod's good. The coverage is good. How do I now attack that and still go after and win that client? And so we're having those conversations every week.
Fantastic, Nick. Appreciate you very much. I think you carry the American French flag very, very well. So
I appreciate that.
do really appreciate it. So thanks for taking your time to join us, man.
Jason, thanks for having me on. This was a blast.
Yeah. Hey, all you loyal listeners out there, I hope you was able to get some stuff from that. There's a lot of gold nuggets, a lot of red meat involved there. So you know what I do. I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Jason Cass. That's Nick Aube, and we are out.